No, Bharti, you are on mute now.
Yeah, that's right. I just got to take care of a domestic issue. So Divya
Yes,
will
so
start it off.
I'll start the session, and
Sure.
uh, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you to the interview series of Mentor My Board, that's Boardroom Talks. Boardroom is a place where fortunes of great companies are written, and hence, in the pursuit of bringing the best practices of the boardroom and best practices followed by eminent directors, independent directors, women directors, professionals like CEO, CFO, CS of corporate India and international boards to you. We have come out with the interview series with directors, professionals, and business leaders who have been guiding and acting as torch bearers for the corporates and the boardrooms. Let me first introduce Mentor My Board to you. Mentor My Board is a platform for corporate directors who come together to learn, to network, to sharpen their boardroom skills and get opportunity of serving on the boards of the companies and as directors, women directors, independent directors, and also get mentored by expert mentors on the areas of business, governance, finance, marketing, and strategy, and so on. We are on a mission to create a community of 1 lakh directors by 2027 and to transform the Indian corporate directors and the boardrooms. We help directors who are continuously looking to sharpen their boardroom and leadership skills, upgrade their knowledge on better governance through best board practices, which help them help the companies they serve on to grow faster and ethically. So let me tell you, we have been recently conducting this boardroom talk series, and we have been wonderfully getting so many responses from you all. So thank you for liking, keep sharing, keep liking, and keep watching this YouTube series. Kindly do share, like the page Mentor My Board on the Facebook, LinkedIn, and also join our community of directors on mentormyboard.com. So today, ICS Divya Momaya, founder of Mentor My Board, invite our esteemed moderator, CS Bharti Iyer, who has rich 30 years of industry experience and an advisor to Mentor My Board. And today, let's get ready for a boardroom talk with Mr. Shrikant Sada, Managing Director of Accenture Technologies. And I request Bharti to introduce Shrikant to all of us. So over to you, Bharti.
Thank you so much, Divya. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce Shrikant, who's an industry veteran with over 2 decades of experience in IT and IT-enabled services sector. He is currently a managing director in the global IT and technology services company, very well-known company, but as he's not mentioned it, I wouldn't want to take the name, which is having currently a revenue of 46 billion US dollars and more than 500,000 employees globally. Shrikant has incubated many ideas in the field of artificial intelligence, machine learning, developed new markets, and mentored global teams to deliver exceptional outcomes. His authority in quality engineering has helped many global companies to achieve significant cost savings and improve customer experience. He holds multiple patents in the field of AI and ML, which are delivering tangible business benefits, which is really excellent because all of us have ideas, but translates into revenue is most important. Outside his professional work, Shrikant conducts sessions for senior executives and board members covering the impact of transformative technologies on business. In the past, Shrikant has successfully conducted transformative technology sessions for 100 plus executives, including many nominated board members. He is currently a mentor of change for the Government of India's flagship program, Atal Incubation Center and Tinkering Labs, established by Atal Innovation Mission Niti Aayog. He is a fitness and sports enthusiast, enjoys sports like cricket, tennis, and badminton, and recently he completed 100 kilometers trail walk challenge from Oxfam to raise funds for child education and women empowerment. Great. So, my very great pleasure to welcome you, Shrikant, onto this talk series. Uh,
Thank you, Bharti.
I mean, you have had such a wide and varied career. And what is of most interest to us on Mentor My Board is, what you have mentioned that you have been have taken programs for IT, I mean, senior executives and board members, specifically key management personnel on aspects of corporate governance. I would just like you to describe your journey onto this platform, and let us know how this would interest people who are mentees, aspiring directors on Mentor My Board.
Thank you, Bharti, for that generous introduction. Really appreciate talking to you on this platform. So, uh, the journey to kind of share my knowledge, the whole only purpose that I started about 2 years back is over the last two and a half decade, I have acquired a lot of knowledge working with some of the best companies in the industry, some of the best minds in the industry, and with the global customers. So I said, why not we share this knowledge with a wider audience, wider people, right? And the technology was one area which I had a strong focus because that's where I spent most of my career, my most of professional life, helping the customers to leverage technology to get a better outcome in their businesses. So that's where I started interacting with some of the corporate companies who are providing the corporate governance training, corporate governance, what is importance of that, how the board should help the management team to kind of steer them to the right direction, especially in this ever-changing, very dynamic business environment, and currently in a very, very challenging business environment, I must say. So that's where I started kind of conducting a lot of sessions. Uh, and when I'm conducting these sessions, it's serving two purposes. One, I'm able to share my knowledge, which I see that companies are getting benefited. And second, it also helps me personally because it's always, I believe that if you share knowledge, it comes back to you in much more uh, higher return. So I'm also able to learn from the experience of these various corporate stakeholders, corporate people about how do I can improve my own knowledge, my own understanding of some of the topics because I interact with different industries and the management team from different industries. So that also brings me a lot of knowledge. So that's how I started this journey. Touchwood so far has been a wonderful journey. Interacted with a lot of good management members, senior executives, and hopeful to keep on doing it as I progress further.
Wonderful. Yeah, so while we were talking about the various skill sets which are required, and like you said, it's a very dynamic world, what is now very popularly known as a VUCA world. So, board members are challenged. We were talking a little while back about, outside looking in, and the executive directors who are inside looking out, So there is a dichotomy of ideas, perspectives, and in this ever-changing world, not just because the pandemic is on now, but generally there are other forces at risk. How do you feel that board members can be enabled to keep up with the times? What do you feel are the special skill sets which has landed you in this space and which can further help them out? Your thoughts on this, please.
Sure. So, very interesting point right now is that when we talk about the business today, and I firmly believe in this one, is that change is the only constant. And that was the case a few years back or a decade back. It was there. Only the speed of change was a little slow. But if you look at last 5 years, the speed of change has accelerated multiple times. And if I look at from March this year, when the pandemic hit, or at least in India, when the lockdown started, the speed of change has quadrupled or multiple times, increased multiple times, right? So that is very, very important. And when you say for board member need a lot of uh, they play a very different role, right? Sometimes outside in, someone going from inside out. The one common thing, if a board member needs to be successful and direct or help management team of the company to kind of steer in the right direction, is that how much they are ready to change, listen to the new ideas, right? Maybe which can be very conflicting with their firm belief. If suppose I'm coming in outside in, and if I'm giving idea to a inside a person or a managed board member who has been with the company for many years, sometimes maybe a promoter, sometimes maybe a kind of having some stake in that company, right? They may have their firm belief in this is how the business works, right? When someone coming from outside in, that's where you see some kind of a friction happens because ideas are not exactly matching, right? Which I believe, I see it as a very good thing to happen, because if everyone aligns with the same thing, then everyone is thinking the same way, and potential possible that you may not be taking the best outcome or best way forward in that area.
Correct.
So outside in kind of giving that lot of this one, and for the person who is inside, it is important to look at that as a change. They're ready to accept that change, ready to accept that new idea, not get threatened by that why this person is coming in outside in, doesn't understand my company that well and giving me an idea, because that person may not understand the company, but that person understand the industry, may be able to take a step back and take a bird's eye view on what is happening in that company, and able to find out some of the areas which the person inside is not able to figure it out. Now that's the outside in perspective. When you look at from inside out, I'm not saying that the person who is inside is wrong or right all the time, right? But one big thing advantage this person carries is that they understand the business like back of their hand.
Correct.
They understand the stakeholders, they understand what needs to be done and everything. They may not be understanding, have complete view about what is happening around them, outside their company, in the industry. So they can bring that huge knowledge about how to take the outside in idea and make it customized, make it relevant for their own company, and get it implemented. The second, I believe, is that you could have a very good idea coming in from outside in, but if it's not implemented properly, it essentially doesn't make any difference, or actually is useless for the company, right? So that's where the outside in and inside out forces meet with each other and can collaborate and can deliver substantial, tangible, positive benefit to the company.
Correct. Very nicely put. Excellently well put. In your opinion, how do you feel that AI, ML would help boards in enhancing and achieving benchmark standards of corporate governance?
Very good and very actually interesting question, right? And this has been one of the topic that I have been talking to a lot of senior executives or nominated board members about how they can leverage technology for, in general, improve the corporate governance, in general, help the companies, right? Now, AI ML, if I keep it aside for as a one, and if I use a technology as a overall umbrella, right? Now, today, if I take 15 years back as an example, that time the corporate governance was about going to the lot of data point available within the company, maybe 1 month, 1 week, depending upon how your systems are put in place, and take the inside that view of which may be sometimes a little old view, and then taking the decision on the what policies needs to be implemented and all that, right? There used to be always some lag about decision taken on the data.
Correct.
Now the technology has advanced to a large extent, right? It has served three kind of broad purpose. One, it is given a huge amount of data available with the company, and this AI, ML, or data science kind of technologies are able to give a real-time access to the entire management team, including board, what is happening in the company, right? So it is all data is available. So that is one positive thing. Second one is about the almost real time data is available to all the executives, so that they can take a decision. And third, if they don't have to take a decision, they can simulate some of these decisions and see what will be the outcome using a lot of this AI, ML, and technology, so that they can be playing that role of business simulation before they actually take the decision.
Yes.
Now, from a corporate governance point of view, it is a big advantage for the board member who are keen on having a best-in-class corporate governance practices and policies, right? Technology enable them to implement those policies without too much oversight, too much kind of overhead on the management team or their IT team, and get
to give some examples, like say, like for example, 2 or 3 scenarios. Let's take it. So one scenario is you're trying to find out different supply chains. Okay. One scenario is you're finding out different markets. Another scenario is now you're moving towards increased debt at better prices because the old debt was not working out for you, and during pandemic you're not able to. How, in your opinion, would newer technologies, not necessarily AI or simulation for that matter, any other technology would help the directors to take a real-time view of what's happening?
So let's take a supply chain as a very simple business case, business use case, right? Any large company or a medium-sized company will have a lot of suppliers providing the raw material at a different level of at different time, under different contractual commitment, different SLAs, and different financial commitment, right? Now, if I don't use technology per se, right, there will be thousands of different contracts which will provide the various supply, various raw material, various items, and that is consumed. That's how it used to happen in the past.
Correct.
There was no proper checks and balances whether the material is coming, it is of proper quality, is it coming in time, and if it is not coming in time, what is the impact on my production, and what is the impact on my revenue or my customer relationships and all that, right? So it's become a broad kind of, it was very manual. Someone has to sit and go through that one. Now, if I implement a simple, say, take an example of blockchain solution,
Yes.
where all my suppliers on that blockchain, even if there's multiple suppliers for same raw product, all them are on blockchain. There is a tracking what was the commitment in the contract, when the contract was signed, and how the products has been delivered. There is no human interaction involved if there has been any miss in the SLAs or KPIs that the supplier has agreed with your company. All this done automatically. There is no human intervention required, and contracts are settled. Payment is done in almost in a seamless manner. So all back and forth about renegotiation, where the penalty needs to be applied and who is at fault, it is very, very easy to do it right now. If I take a real life example of how this can work, right? If I take a, say, medical medicines and all that, which are starting from a warehouse and going to the stores.
Right.
Now, in the entire journey, there are many suppliers or many vendors involved who are handling those medicines or perishable medicines, which are subject to the temperature, humidity, and all that. If you don't maintain it, by the time it reaches the store, those may be damaged or may not be useful, right?
Contaminated also.
Right. So when you start, if you have a blockchain solution implemented, and blockchain just technology, you can have any other technology solution. IoT based solution also works fine. If you implement it so that at every transaction, every handoff between different vendors, the SLAs are measured and logged into the central ledger in a, say, blockchain solution, so that you know which vendor has missed the SLAs. Either the temperature was increased or humidity was lower or something has happened, and that record is available for everyone to see. And when you move and when the goods are delivered to the store, and that's where the contract ends, you are essentially doing it entire end-to-end seamless. You don't have to go and back and forth saying that who was at fault and how much to be deducted. It is all seamless, and everyone is happy, right? And everyone is accountable also for that. So that is one use of, say, supply chain. If I take even the various kind of, you mentioned about debt and all that, right? Many companies, CFOs are using various instruments to raise the money from the market or from any other alternate sources, right? Many times it is happening, okay, based on their intelligence, based on their some own calculations and what is available in the market, right? Or what they had done in the past, and they will continue that practice. But if they implement some technology solution which can give all the options available, what is their current cost of carrying those funds or raising those funds, and if there is anything available which is maybe cheaper, maybe may not be cheaper, but may be more beneficial from the overall long-term point of view, those decisions can be taken by CFO, right? Either executed directly, or they can do the simulation and see how it will project, what will the impact on the financials, their balance sheet over the next 5 years, and then decide what they want to do. So
wonderful.
Technology can be used by each and every management member, whether they are focused on supply chain, the assembly line, or purely on the financials of the company.
Correct. I get what you're saying, and it's excellent that you use blockchain and for such a wonderful example, because I'm very much an insurance professional, and tracking, where the claim incident actually occurred is one of very key jobs in marine transit insurance.
Essentially, a lot of frauds happens in that insurance claim. So you don't know whether that person is really making the right claim or is making some fraudulent claims based on different parameter or reasons, right?
Yeah. So this is an interesting point of view. But coming back to what Divya was saying, like with regard to the persons who are viewing the program, a number of them have their own entrepreneurial setup. A number of them have got family-owned businesses. Number of them are like professionals like yourself and I, who are interested in, understanding how a professional like you can suggest something. What are the various skill sets which you feel an ordinary board member who's not trained on all these aspects. See, you are from IT and IT enabled. Okay, so the things which you speak about, like for example, IoT. IoT is for me just a phrase, Internet of Things. Maximum I can think about is Google, that voice thing, turning on the television or turning on a particular song. But how would you feel a board member who is not so sensitized or so knowledgeable about all these aspects? How do you feel that, uh, what is the level of knowledge which they should ordinarily be possessed of to be better able to encounter the challenges of corporate governance, especially from the point of view of startups, family owned businesses, promoter directors, from those aspects?
Okay, so are you referring to the independent directors or corporate directors, how they can stay relevant, what is
Yes.
happening in the industry, right?
Perfect.
Right. So if I look at from that point of view, when I was very young, someone told that learning is for life. You don't stop your learning till the time you die, right? So, and though maybe that was very profound statement, but it is real, it is applicable, it is true even today, and it will be true even in future as well, right? So there is no shortcut to say that I will know everything, right? So couple of things I do personally because I cannot say that I know everything about everything, right? Just because I'm in technology doesn't mean that I know everything and
It's
anything, right?
vast. It's very
Right?
vast.
It's vast, right? So one, the business or the dynamics is changing very, very rapidly, right? So there is no excuse or no kind of exit path in that I will not invest my personal time in learning what is happening in the industry or what is happening in the business world, right? So that's where first you need to invest some time in understanding what is happening in the industry in general, right? Technology is going to play a very significant role whichever business one company is. Even it is a very traditional brick and mortar, and we have seen in last 5-10 years all those brick and mortar companies are moving completely to technology.
Correct.
Right? And they are leveraging technology, changing their own business models to suit to the technology world. And the pandemic has even shown that the companies which were very strong on technology, their resiliency was much higher. Either they were able to minimize the impact on their business, or they are able to recover from that impact much faster compared to a lot of other players who did not invest in the technology. So look at, for my suggestion to the aspiring board members or anyone who wants to kind of help the management team, is to look at what is happening in the technology.
Correct.
And I completely understand that they may not be able to master that, and I don't think that's the expectation as well, but they should be able to see what is the technology can offer at a broad level and ask those right questions to the management team to say whether they are leveraging those technology or not, right? So the board member or independent director needs to be more as a guide, not as a kind of a project manager or program manager. They need to say, okay, this is the way you can leverage technology. Have you explored these various options? And kind of let the management team explore and come back to say, okay, how they can implement all these things. So that is one, learning, investing their own time, kind of having a broader idea about what is happening in the technology in the general industry so that they can act as a guide, act as a mentor or coach to the management team to deliver a better outcome in their space. And each of these company, you mentioned about the family owned business, you mentioned about the startup, sometimes the established company will need a different level of coaching.
Correct.
Right? If I talk about the family owned business, right? That's I'm starting with that because that is very uh, prevalent in India. A lot of companies are family owned and then converted into a more professionally managed companies. The challenge over there, and the people, they understand the business very well. They understand the pulse of the business, like what you call a gut feeling. I know my
Yes.
business very well, right? So
Yes.
they understand. So there is no need for the independent director to tell them how to run that core business.
Okay.
That time independent director needs to say, okay, these are the things that are happening from the technology or industry changes point of view, and how they can be complement to this family owned
Good
business who
business.
are expert, right? So that's where the
Correct.
collaboration skill comes into play, because you don't want to challenge the family owned business knowledge of the business or the stakes involved in the business, but you
Correct.
want to collaborate so that they start listening to your ideas which are coming in from outside in view and implement this one. When you
Wonderful.
look at the startup, they are not, potentially may not be governed by all this corporate governance processes and rules and everything. Of course they will be having some, but may not be full-fledged. So how do you bring the ideas, how do you enable them to run faster? Because startup is all about how do quickly I get my ideas, try it out, pilot it out, and then correct what a correction required, and then roll out to the market, and then again keep on improving on that product or service that the startup is offering. That time
Correct.
they need to bring in that knowledge about how to make it, how to enable them to deliver something very faster, right?
Right.
How to
Right.
connect them with the someone in the industry who can help them to kind of fail fast, I can use that word, or succeed faster, right? And if it's a established company, it needs a different kind of approach from independent directors to learn. So learning, technology awareness, and some softer aspects about which skill to apply, which type of company is what is required, in my view.
Very nice. I really liked all the very pithily, brought all the points together, Shrikant. Compliments. While you were talking about startups and the fact that, yes, initially when they're starting up, they just want to grow the business, get into the thing of getting it going. But like, for example, let me take the example, it's all in the newspapers today, Jack Ma, Alibaba, and Ant. Okay, so just a brief history in 2 sentences. They started up, say about, let us say, with the idea of making this IPO about 5 years back. Okay, but there has been a lot of regulatory intervention, oversight has been there, but because of various influences which he was able to bring to bear, the regulatory intervention was not so successful. But on the October 27th or 24th in a meeting, I think there was some sort of a mismatch between what he says and what he does, and walking that act did not happen. And now the IPO has fallen through. Now, what I'm saying is, with regard to startups, when you are ultimately planning to grow to a huge scale, you want to scale up your business, and nobody does that using your own funds, so you go for an IPO. So how do you think that technology and startups should understand the purpose for which you're going for? Ultimately, maybe 5 years down the line, maybe 7 years down the line, you need to have IPO. For that, corporate governance has to be in the DNA or in the genesis of your startup idea. It cannot be straight away that, the 4 pillars of corporate governance, transparency, authenticity, all that cannot be suddenly imbibed just because you have an IPO around the corner. So your thoughts on this, please.
So I will maybe slightly make it a little broader, Bharti. So corporate governance is one, but the most of the investment bankers or the people who want to invest money in this startup, right?
Yes.
Now is a time where they need to not only talk about the corporate governance, but also about the sustainability and the responsible businesses,
Perfect.
right? So I will
Right.
slightly kind of expand that scope, right?
Please do.
Right. So now technology can play a very good role. And as you rightly mentioned, the corporate governance suddenly cannot say, okay, today onwards, I want to be uh, bring my transparency into my everything and anything that I do. While 5 years I have not done anything, that's you cannot do that kind of thing, right? So it needs to be from day one. And if I'm investing as an investor into any company, right, I will be first looking at, of course, other than the business model, which is, I assume, is all right, everything is fine, right? More and more investors are becoming aware about what is your track record from a corporate governance point of view. Is your books have all the details available? Is the level of transparency there or not, right? And many times we talk about those related party transactions, right?
Right.
It is, and we have seen many examples in corporate India where big corporations, big management team members has kind of overlooked that one, intentionally, unintentionally, I don't know, but overlooked that one and got into a big trouble, right? Even auditors overlooked that one and got into a big trouble, right? So how you are bringing that transparency on those some of this aspect which are very critical if I am an investor.
Correct.
Now, second part which I mentioned about the sustainability, right? And now today every business can contribute in the sustainability, and there are enough data point available right now where there are some investment firms who are evaluating each and every company about on their sustainability index, on their responsible index, right? And then say, I will invest the money. It doesn't cost too much to the startup or any company to implement these controls because technology is available. uh, it is very easy, and if I say not that costly to implement and track it. It's just you need that vision that 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, if I'm going to go for a listing or if I'm going to go for a big investment money from investors, this all will be required. And how do I prepare from day one? Right. Day one, you may not be perfect, and nobody is perfect on day one, right? But if you have intentionally put the controls and measures, over a period of time, you become perfect or you become more kind of trustworthy. And these are the three areas which will be in future, will be any investor will look into that, because sometimes, because all the investment, they genuinely believe in all the sustainability and responsible business. Sometimes even governments are pushing them towards that, so that they invest only in the companies which are sustainable from environment point of view, responsible from environment point of view. So these three things I will suggest to any startup, that if you are not thought about this one, it is not late. Start thinking about that one. If you are already too much into that journey of raising money and all that, you may have to accelerate implementation of these controls. But if you are a new startup, start implementing about what is your plan going to be to provide a corporate governance, which is include transparency on each and every transaction that you do, each and every rupee that you spend, kind of thing. Second, what is your focus approach on the sustainability, including the environment and everything, and how you're going to do your business in a more responsible manner. I'm not talking about a 2% CSR fund.
I'm talking about environment, societal governance, ESG.
So that 2% is the government mandates you to do it. So many companies will do it. I'm talking about slightly broader. And whatever I have experienced, where I've seen some startup has got good investment, typically they have scored a really fairly good in all these three parameters.
So like you said about investment, ESG investing is like very much here to stay now, especially after the pandemic. It has come more to the forefront. You don't need a Greta Thunberg alone to bring it to the forefront. It has been in the public eye. I think SBI has got a mutual fund which is into ESG from 1991. Okay, so here definitely it is coming very much to the forefront, and the government is very rightly actually promoting and propagating those ideas, so that responsibility for maintaining a better quality of life, better quality of environment is on the citizens.
Yes.
It is not necessarily that the government has to thrust it. So even the decriminalization of offenses, which has just this year, has primarily the thought in view that you can only force companies and corporates towards corporate social responsibility so far. After that, it's something which you have to imbibe and you have to, sustain it. Very right.
It needs to come from inside. It needs to
Correct.
come from inside. It cannot be it can get certain results from regulations, penalty, kind of doing some fines and all that, but then it becomes a tick mark kind of thing. Yes, we had to do it, so we are doing it. But
Correct.
once it starts coming in inside, it easy. And that's the reason I mentioned startups are easy to, I think earlier Divya was mentioning, mold them, right? So if you have that thought process already, it is easy to grow with that. It
Correct.
is difficult to include that when you are already become too big and say now suddenly you want to become socially responsible, environment friendly, and all that. Possible, but then it is a lot of hard work after that.
Very much hard work. And then when it's regulated from outside and it's forced on you, after you have grown into a particular concretized path, your business has gone into a concretized path, then to break those concrete channels and divert your method of doing business is going to be a lot costlier and very much harder on your markets, on your supply chain, on your own people. So it's going to be very costly in the long run. Coming back to what you were saying about startups and this thing, because a number of our aspiring directors are actually keen to get into startups also. I was just asking you about your journey as a mentor of change at the incubation centers and tinkering labs. Any tips for our, aspiring directors, our mentor directors from the incubation center, anything which you have come?
So I think my journey started because, as I mentioned 2 years back, I said, okay, let's do something as my personal objective to give it back to society,
Excellent.
right? And I said, my area is technology. So easy for me to give back on that area than trying to do something which is not my technology. So it was my selfish interest to say start. So I kind of looked into what government is doing, came across Atal Innovation Mission. So I said, okay, why not apply over there and see what happens. Had a kind of few email exchange with uh, Amitabh Kant also to say, okay, this is what I want to do and all those things. So, and then I got into the Atal Innovation Mission and got selected for the incubation center.
Right.
Right. Uh, my guidance to the board directors or people who wants to kind of do the startup or become a mentor for the startup is that government of India is doing a lot of kind of this investing a lot into this various incubation center. If I'm not wrong, in India there are about 22 plus incubation center which government of India is funding. Basically the infrastructure is given by those institute, but government of India is funding, and then they are tying up with a lot of startups in different fields to encourage, to mentor them, encourage them, and help them to scale on their business plan, right?
Right.
So one, the board members or directors who wants to come into the startup, they can leverage the infrastructure or platform that is available by government of India,
So that
right?
will be the website Atal.
Atal Innovation. So AIM is the website, and over there you can get a lot of information about various incubation center, and then you can, any startup can kind of approach to them about support that they need, either creating the business plan, creating how to scale up from current level to the next level, or a technology, or just they want someone from a business side to act as a sounding board so that they can uh, kind of share their ideas and learn from there and kind of move on,
Wonderful,
right?
wonderful.
So that is available, and I would encourage each and everyone who wants to come into the startup world or mentor startup is to leverage that, right? And second, my suggestion or my kind of just 2 cents from my side to these directors is that just be comfortable with chaos, right? It is easy to say but difficult to implement. because typically all of us are, especially when you are in a corporate world, you are kind of conditioned to be have a predictability, kind of a no surprises and
Change
all
is
that.
not comfortable.
Yeah.
Change is
So
not comfortable.
exactly. So there you need to be comfortable with the chaos, comfortable with kind of something not being known 5 steps down the line what is going to happen. You may have to take one step at a time and explore what is going to be the next step. I'm maybe exaggerating too much, but I'm saying be comfortable with chaos. That's the mindset, but you need to be very, very much in that one so that you can not only help the people who are in the startup, but also if you want to do your own startup, you need to be ready with that.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents, which I follow, and so far it has worked well for me.
Good. So again, coming back to two or three of your questions. One, as I was telling you about the VUCA world, asking you about your thoughts on that. You also said that the board can leverage data science, artificial intelligence, simulation techniques. And then coming back to what you said, that you have to look around the corner, be 5 steps ahead in this highly dynamic and changing VUCA world. So your thoughts in the context of all these points which I have said, and risk management. So on these four aspects, these four corners of the conversation, I would just like your thoughts to quickly touch upon all these four aspects.
So, so when we say VUCA world or the kind of uncertainty in the business, right? See, few years down the line or few years back in the past, right? It was very certain, and each business was kind of each industry was there has their own boundaries, right? And was operating in those business boundaries to large extent, right? There was no one to come and say, okay, I will disturb the entire industry or business, right? It was happening, but was not happening at that pace.
Agreed.
Over last 1 decade, things has accelerated and become a much more volatile, much more industry boundaries are merging. So it become a much more volatile world. And in that one, of course, the risk increases. Risk of not doing is much more than risk of doing something,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And we have many examples in India also where some of the leading companies or leading institutions like flagship companies in India chose not to do something because they thought there was no business opportunity, and some startup has come and kind of disrupted the market, right?
Yes, yes.
If I take an example of, and instead of giving my point of view, I'm giving the example just to
Oh, that's better.
say that.
Very interesting.
So if I take an example of 2000, I think 4 years back, there was a demonetization, same,
Correct.
I think similar time frame, 8th November, if I'm not wrong, right? 8th or 9th November, there was a demonetization.
Correct.
And within 2-3 months, we have seen a significant increase, like multiple X increase in this download and subscription of all this digital wallets kind of thing, right? And now those wallets are coming, those companies are becoming a banking companies and offering the similar kind of a products and services what a typical bank offers, right? Now we had a many nationalized big banks, kind of maybe the largest bank in India or kind of maybe one of the top largest banks in the global, right? They had option to leverage this technology and come up with the wallets and all that. And they had a captive base of their millions of subscribers with the trust, everything behind them to roll out, right? But they did not realize the overlapping boundaries of the various industry and kind of did not do anything. I'm not saying that that is not kind of completely collapse their business, but someone else came and taken that business, which did some company, that company did something different, took that risk. So they took the risk, and now today they are paying. But the company, the established company, chose not to spend that much money.
Because of
Chose
complacence, no, they were very satisfied with their business model.
Exactly. So risk of not doing anything, that is hurt them, right? So that is one. So in this world, there is nothing called risk-free kind of business. Every business, every decision will have some risk. Now, how you understand your business, what are the work that you have done, and what risk you are taking will decide which is successful and which is not so successful company, right?
Correct.
So that is,
Correct.
and that is becoming more and more prevalent with the overlapping boundaries within the industries.
Right.
Nobody predicted Ola or Uber or Airbnb, right? Everyone was in Mumbai. You are in Mumbai. Everyone was happy with the black cab, right? Or not black cab, the Kalipili taxi, right? But today, hardly anyone is using that one because Ola, Uber is available as and when you want it, right? So that was a different business model. So I'm saying industry boundaries are overlapping, which is driving this change, VUCA world, whatever you call it, right? It is increasing the risk that is available to the existing business and is forcing the executives, management team to take those risk or leap of faith, because if they don't do it, it could be a potential kind of significant downside impact to their existing business. And we have seen that, uh, be it a Kalipili taxi in Mumbai, I'm not able to find any specific word, but that is one, right? Or some of the banking sector, right? Some of the hospitality business with Airbnb coming in, right? All these are
Oyo is a very successful model.
Oyo in India, right?
Yeah. So, what is today's paper? WhatsApp, this thing has come no for business. WhatsApp for business. They are doing their payments on the WhatsApp platform. So, business like has been introduced about 2 years back, but the payments enabling was still happening through other competitor wallets. So
now they got the WhatsApp payment successful. So almost every Indian is using, if using smartphone, they are using some form or some other WhatsApp group, right? So it's become that important, right?
Very smoothly transitioning to that. Yeah. So Divya, I'm sure you would love to ask some questions of Srikanth.
Yes, absolutely. I was thrilled to, listen to your wonderful interactions, both of you. And as I told you, Shrikant, I'm also a startup, and I was taking a lot of notes while I was listening to you both. And one of my takeaway from today's session is going to be, even at the startup stage, focus on ESG aspects, the sustainability aspects. So I'm going to work on my board level on these things, and I made a decision at my level that at this stage I need to start at least considering 2% CSR every year, even if I'm not eligible, as a startup. And these are the stages wherein we cultivate better ideas or better processes in the company. So that's my takeaway. Now,
Thank you.
one thing I would like to, ask you is about the independent directors. When independent directors get placed on the companies, how important it is, you have seen in your, experience about the induction process, and how, as independent director, they should be involved in the company, and what all things are there at the initial phase, or rather, if I tell you, what are what they should give to the company, or what are the company's expectations, in if I tell you the other way around, from the independent directors. So
Okay, maybe let me take a very simple example. In India, still a lot of people are getting married as through arranged marriage, right? And so the newlywed person comes into the new house, right? And then you may not understand all the person's dynamics, their nature, liking, disliking, and all that, right? So there is a process which is there, which takes, okay, newlywed bride comes to the house, and then there is a process of everyone, family members takes their own effort to make that person comfortable first, and then also share how the things operate in that new household, what are the people liking, disliking, their relationship between amongst each other, and all those things, right? So if I take that example to a company, right, independent directors are supposed to be independent, so they are not supposed to be relative of the board member and all that, so they come in, right? It is important, and the way I see it is that it is important for the board member to go extra mile to induct them, make them feel comfortable, make them feel at home in that new company or in that new board, right? Because it is going to be if I had to use it is going to be a family, small family, which will drive the management team towards the success, right? So they need to be given that time to understand what is happening in the company, who are the board members, who are the stakeholders, and everything, right? Of course, that is the board member, existing board member, or the chairman needs to do that part so that the new person comes in, settles down. From the independent director point of view, they need to one, consume that knowledge, which is important, and show their independence. If something is not going right, they don't have to say, oh yeah, it is, this is how it happens, right? Let's continue with this one, and then the bad practices continues, right?
Correct, correct.
Like in a family, when someone says that, okay, someone is want to change, the common reaction is, oh this you are just came in the house now, and now you are giving a gyan to us, right? The kind of similar behavior you will see from some of the board members, that, oh, we know what we are doing, this has been happening, right?
Correct.
It is important for independent director to use the interpersonal skill and a collaboration to drive that point. Because
in fact, what you said, I completely agree. The example or the relevance what you gave about, a person newly comes to a family. And, because, we have gone through that phase. So now I, exactly correlate that, as a newly inducted director on the board, you have to put in a lot of efforts to understand the ecosystem, to understand and try to, definitely asking right questions at right time is one, important way to understand, the expectations of the organization. But also, whenever some discussions are happening, you need to lot of put in efforts, go extra mile, do your homework well. So all those aspects definitely come very, very important from the perspective of independent directors. And I would like to ask you, your one question about the, recent examinations. So what's your say? Because recently I have been observing a lot of, professionals have cleared their examinations and they say we are open for the positions. So what, one piece of advice you would like to give them, and, how they actually can start identifying best boards for them. So any thought on that?
so exams is like, we all have given exams during our education and cleared with varying degree of success and all that, right? So exams give you a basic knowledge, right? It gives a, yes, I know what are my roles, responsibility, obligations, and all those things. So that is one part of it, right? How do you apply that knowledge is a completely different part of it, and that's where your experience on the industry, your interpersonal skills, your influencing skill, and other things comes into play, about how you apply that knowledge effectively, right? So government, and again, from a government point of view, they can't control all these aspects. What they can do is saying that, okay, we want everyone to be at some basic level of understanding, and then up to the individual to kind of apply that learning based on their own knowledge and experience. So I would say it is good to have that exam, because that way at least you know that you have basic minimum criteria is met, right? Is like, if you have a 50 application and you have one position, you will not go and talk to 50 people. You will use certain basic minimum criteria to filter out some of those numbers. So you can look at that. It's good to have that one, in my belief, because that ensures or establishes bare minimum criteria. But if anyone wants to go into as an independent director, or anyone wants to take someone as an independent director, they need to look at all this process about the person's knowledge, background, understand how the person diffuses the uh, maybe tense situation. Because in the boardroom, you will have situation where the point of view may not match, and if you both stick to your point of view, there may not be any decision. So how do you diffuse a situation to take a maybe common approach or move forward with the decision making process? So those are very softer aspect that anyone who wants to take an independent director needs to look at that for a successful functioning of the board, and also leverage from the independent director's experience and knowledge.
Perfect. So here, I mean, we almost come to the end, and we have been having a wonderful interaction. पता ही नहीं चला एक घंटा कब निकल गया. But before we close down, very quick three kind of tips from you for the directors and aspiring directors who have been associated with Mentor My Board. And also some of your thoughts when we had a discussion about Mentor My Board. So some areas wherein we can really improve, or we can really think of doing some innovation, because you have been closely associated with technology and innovation. So
my three things which I kind of covered in some of my some of the discussion today. One is the independent directors needs to be very comfortable with the chaos.
Yes.
Very comfortable with chaos. Second, they need to be ready for change, right? So that drive that change, continuous change is the important, because that's the role that they can play very effectively if they truly want to do a good job on that one, right? And third, they need to be aware of what is happening in the industry. So invest your time, whatever time you can, right, to learn about the industry, learn about the business, learn about the technology, so that you are better prepared to help the management team and the board to take a right decision. Now coming to the Mentor My Board kind of thing, right? I know today, and maybe in for some foreseeable future, we will be all online, may not be meeting people, or will be restrict the interaction with in-person interaction with the people to bare minimum, right? You could look at how to engage people on this platform is very important, right? And many times when you have a big meeting, right, it is very easy after half an hour to lose interest in that meeting and start doing something else, right? So maybe you could look at how do you conduct some of the gamification part of it in the work that you are doing or training that you are providing. Can you bring some gamification? Because that brings two big aspects. One, it involves people so that your attention span increases. Second, all of us like to win. That's the inherent nature of any human being, right?
Correct.
And when you put that gamification, some level of team building, team part come into play if you are doing that team kind of activity, so that okay, let's collaborate and win. So that collaboration and the winning part automatically comes in. That's my kind of 2 cents to you for how you can maybe leverage some of the technology. Technology enables that very easily from the implementation point of view.
Wonderful.
Well said. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Actually, when you are talking about gamification, I was just thinking what Divya has launched recently is Directors Roundtable. So the games which you're saying, the game theory, basically. Okay. So we can have those game theory, maybe with zero-sum games, in a sort of a simulation in that roundtable, Directors Roundtable, and make it very interactive, very useful for the person who are bringing real-time, challenges at the round table. So this will really help. And your suggestions, I mean, I'm sure Divya will be.
Absolutely. In fact, absolutely. And in fact, Shrikant, let me tell you, we also, will be actually working on creating mock boardroom structures, because as you said, you get knowledge, but industry experience, agar aapko experience nahi hai, people will not take you on board. Exactly. So you need to have those judgments, you need to have those quick decision makings, you need to have those, as you said, to handle the chaos on the table. So all these things, will come only with experience and knowledge sharing with, other participants. So that's, one thing which we have been working. And again, thank you for your presence today. And it was really wonderful.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you for the lovely audience here, the aspiring directors, the directors, the promoter directors, the startup directors. Keep watching, keep liking, and keep sharing these boardroom talk series. And I'm sure you would have taken a lot of learnings from this wonderful talk, as I have. So thank you everyone, and look forward to meet you all next Friday with some eminent personality like Shrikant. And thank you, Shrikant, on behalf of entire Mentor My Board team for your eminent presence here. And again, we are missing Dr. Swati here. Dr. Swati, thank you for recommending Shrikant with all of us. Thank you
very much. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.